Hospital port as pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Hapanwo TV on BitChute. This video is a reply video to Secret Sources. That's the video I came across from a channel that I've been following. Secret Sources, her name is a Danish lady, and she made a video called Cancer Cures, ? Which was very interesting. She's actually been reading The Medical Mafia by GC-MAF, which is a book I myself have read. I used to have a copy. I don't know if I still got one somewhere on my pile of books that I've read or haven't read. And I just wanted to fill her in with a few things because I get the feeling she's quite new to this subject. She's recently been changing her views an awful lot on various things, and she's been documenting her change of mind over the last couple of months. And so I hope she and other BitChute users find this very interesting. I might upload this to YouTube as well, actually. I need to. I'm overdue for the YouTube video. Now, Cancer Cures. Now, she goes into several details about certain things in the particular video about cancer. It's actually not one disease. It's a series of diseases which have several things in common. But the general cure you get offered conventionally, if you catch it, and cancer can be, in many cases, is deadly. But the conventional cure you get is what I call collusion, which stands for cut it off and poison the stump. There's several ways that the conventional oncology will treat cancer, and if you've ever had the misfortune to suffer from this terrible disease, you'll know this. That is surgery. The actual cancer, if it's like a tumor, it can be removed. If it's in a place and a kind of tumor that can be removed surgically. And then on top of that, along with that, you get chemotherapy and radiotherapy. This is where basically they carpet bomb your body until enough of the nasty cells are dead, along with your healthy cells, and then they stop the carpet bombing and let you. Hopefully, you'll be able to rebuild what's been bombed before you die. Now, there are other treatments available which are actually far more effective and don't have the same side effects that conventional treatments collusion has. They don't. In the case of collusion, very often the damage done to your body is permanent. For example, the most common life-changing effect of cancer treatment is mastectomy, where a woman has one or even both of her breasts removed, which is a terrible thing for a woman to have to go through. There's many other examples of that. And in chemotherapy, radiotherapy can have permanent effects on the body. So there are treatments that are far less invasive. They don't involve any surgery. They don't involve any toxic chemicals. They leave your body undamaged, yet they treat the cancer. They essentially reset the immune system to a point where it can actually destroy the cancer and bring about what doctors call a spontaneous remission. So why doesn't everyone have that kind of treatment? Why is it not available? Well, I think I will leave Hollywood to actually answer that question. It's not Hollywood specifically, it's actually the German film industry, because there's a very good German film called The Hunt for CM24. It's actually in the English language. It stars Bill Sage, who's quite famous, and a couple of other people. And it's about a doctor who actually discovers one of these cures, one of these treatments. Instantly, you're not allowed to say the word cure under the 1939 Cancer Act. You have to say the word remission. You'll never hear an oncologist say the word cure when referring to cancer, when someone's overcome cancer. You say, "Am I cured, doctor? Am I cured?" You're in remission. You're in remission. Yes, you're never out of remission. Remission is something you basically have your whole life until you die from something else. So this film is worth watching if you can get hold of a copy. I mean, I do have. If anyone wants me to file share copies of the film, I will to you. I mean, it's it's an old film. It's not available on any commercial media, so I imagine there's not a copyright issue to do with it. Either way, I'm only going to show you a brief clip here, but this is the most important clip. This is the crucial part of the film where the hero, Dr. Hofstetter, encounters the man who tells him the facts of life when it comes to what's going on. Because this is a guy who's been harassed by these dark-suited, sinister individuals because he's come up with this cancer cure. So just have a watch of this and see what you think.
Get them to call Miracle Man. Someone wants to see you.
You like music. Mozart. A genius like you.
I could take my chances with the public prosecutor.
After your newfound television stardom, I think the actress we found was an exceptional likeness of the Milgram woman. Didn't you?
Of course, you could always liquidate me. But that wouldn't get you the enzyme, the data disk you want. However, with Dr. Jordan there to help you, you could manufacture CM24 in 2, maybe 3 years. You could call your new enzyme Novalin or whatever you like. Nobody would stop you from testing and marketing. So I'm wondering why you need my material so desperately. Of course, others may get there first. But with Elke there to help you, I doubt it. Oh my God. Your clients have no intention of marketing it, do they? Not yet, anyway. All that weighty investment they haven't recouped yet. Chemotherapy, morphines, whole string of anti-cancer, placebos. And then there's the equipment. Computer scanners, nuclear spin tomographs. It's a Mandarin in his clinic. Yeah, I know he's a joke, but where does he come in?
Anywhere we want him to. You don't understand. It's all so much more than you can imagine. My clients are responsible people. Far-sighted, cultivated people who don't take decisions lightly. They consider all the options, including moral ones.
Profit. You forgot to mention profit.
It's in no one's interest for the pharmaceutical industry to go bust. No profit, no money, no research, no cures. Enough of your bullshit, Jacob. It's time to get real. The rest of your life can be hell. Or not. It's up to you.
So there you have it. That, in a short clip in this film, is it. And again, I do recommend watching the entire film. Just let me know if you want to. It is not the whole story, though. It's not just about money, and it's not just about the pharmaceutical industry going bust. It's not just that. There's a lot more going on. It's about morale. It's essentially about psychological warfare as well. Cancer is something that people are afraid of. Now, the Illuminati, deep state, whatever you want to call them, what they need to do is they don't just want to do it, they need to do it, is to generate negative emotions in the population. And then we know there's all kinds that we've talked about, and indeed Secret Sources talked about on her channel, especially the guilt. Guilt is one of them. Another is fear. And there's so much in our society to be fearful of. Fear of unemployment, fear of environmental damage, climate change, and things like that. And this is another fear, fear of cancer. If that fear was taken away, it would be an enormous boost to our morale. And as Andy Thomas, a great researcher, he once said, everything is designed to break our spirit. And that's another reason why it happens. So it's not just about money. It's not just about profit. It's more than that. And if you think this is not happening, or I can assure you it is, I'm assure you this is real because I've seen it, I've dealt with it. Now, I put this as a comment on Dion's video, actually. It's about my friend, and I'll call her Michelle. That's the name I used in my comment. That's not her real name. If I used her real name, I could jeopardize her entire career. She is a domiciliary nurse in the NHS, and she actually treated her friend who had cancer. Now, she treated her friend. It was a friend of hers. It wasn't a patient. She didn't do this on the Queen's shilling. She did this off duty. She paid for it herself. She bought the CBD, which is a very, very powerful anti-cancer agent. It's a very powerful anti-cancer agent, which has been denounced as quackery. It can be extracted from the cannabis plant, and it has been, well, I know it's very effective. Michelle's friend had stage 4 metastatic breast cancer and been given a few months to live. Michelle treated her friend with CBD oil, and she spoke about it publicly. She did an interview online about it. That interview's now been taken down at her own request from the person who did the interview. Next thing you know, she's hauled into the office at work, and she's accused of unprofessional, inappropriate behaviour and offensive behaviour that could bring the NHS trust into disrepute. Sounds familiar? Yes, it happened to me too. And she was suspended, and she underwent a full disciplinary procedure. She has kept her job, and she only has 3 years to go to retirement. So once she's safe, once the money's in her pocket, her pension, which she would lose if she was sacked, once the money's in her pocket, she can sing like Tweety Pie, and she's going to. But until then, she has to remain anonymous. I'll be telling her story in more detail, I hope, in the future. But it's incredible. They came down on her with astonishing ferocity. And I've talked about this. I talked about this on my St. Theo's videos. The NHS is a very degenerate organisation. It's very, very inefficient, and it's willing to put up with extremely low levels of performance from its staff. Yet if you do this, you get into the most terrible trouble. You get into the most appalling mess with, I hope, as I said, I'm just going back to the comments. I'm just having a look at that. Now, as I said, she treated her friend with this in her own time from this CBD oil that's been denounced as quackery. Almost lost her job. And I think that says an awful lot. It's very, very, it's not only, it says how much the authorities want to keep this quiet, but how the method they use for keeping it quiet. Michelle's friend, incidentally, is in complete remission, but no one talks about that. Michelle saved her life. Now, there's other examples. I mean, David Noakes, who I think Secret Sources mentioned in her video. David Noakes has been he was very publicly humiliated in the news, and he was sent to prison for running his company. It's called Immunobiotech, I believe. I think that's the name of it. Let's just double check. Immunobiotech Limited, to promote this treatment he had. Now, David Noakes, working with Lynn Thayer, who's a biochemist, they decided to go into business promoting this treatment, GC-MAF, an anti-cancer treatment. GC-MAF, which is D-glycosylation macrophage activating factor, and it claims an 80% success rate with stage 4 cancer, which is roughly about 80% more than conventional oncology. But he was put in jail. He was disgraced. The newspapers made an absolute monster out of him. Lynn Thayer is now in jail. She's been extradited to France, and she's now in jail there. I've got a write to her, actually. I've got her address in prison, which Ian R. Crane was put it up on Facebook, so I'm going to write to her. David and Lynn are a couple. They're in love as well as professional, as well as they're a personal couple as well as a professional couple. I think it's really horrible what's happened. Now, you might say, well, how is this possible? How is this possible? You can't keep anything secret in this world. I mean, there's all kinds of ways which secrets leak out. There's terms like grapevine or scuttlebutt, as the Americans call it, which is how secrets leak out if your partner's cheating on you or something like this. In fact, so something like this should not be possible. I mean, let's face it, even members of the Illuminati, cancer scientists, they get cancer too, don't they? Things like that. So these are questions which we have to address, questions raised by the skeptics to try and say why people like us are talking nonsense, that there is no cover-up. And if this cure actually worked, it would be it would be all over the place, it would be manufactured, people would make a fortune off it, you know, even though it may not be profitable to produce. I mean, some of these things, such as nitrilicide, if you ever watch A World Without Cancer, G. Edward Griffin's documentary, you can make that from not grapefruit, what was it? Peach, is it? No, apricot pits. It's in apricot pits. So it's extremely cheap to produce. It's not profitable. But anyway, even still, I mean, it would still be available, you know. And the NHS wants to save lives, doesn't it? Well, the NHS is a pack of lies. I mean, look what they did to me. Anyway, Dr. David Grimes of right here in Oxford University. I'm hoping to meet up with him one day. It seems I live just a couple of miles away. He claims to have worked out a mathematical formula for calculating how long a successful conspiracy can endure. Wow, strike a light. But now his equations are based on three factors: the number of people briefed in on the secret, the length of time the secret has to be kept, and what he calls the intrinsic probability of the conspiracy failing. And that means the inevitable occurrences of ineptitude or rogue whistleblowers. That's leaks, in other words. And he uses some examples of some real conspiracy theories that have been proven true, such as the PRISM surveillance system, which you might have heard from Edward Snowden, the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where a number of black people were infected deliberately with syphilis as a biological as a sort of like biological test, a medical experiment, and things like that. In fact, there's many more examples. If you know, there's Hillsborough and Jimmy Savile and things like that. If you Google conspiracy theories proven true, there's a list as long as your arm, and they call us nuts. Now, his method regenerated some remarkable results. The moon landing hoax would have failed after 3.7 years. The climate change lie would have lasted only 3.4 years, and vaccine autism conspiracies just 3.15 years. Right. Now, Dr. Grimes did speak to several people in the pro-conspiracy research community. Not me. He should have done, because I could have talked to him about this. Funny enough, I have been in contact with Dr. Grimes since, and he has actually replied to me, and he says the points I make are very valid, because I wrote a Panwell Voice blog article about this. He spoke to Marcus Allen. He spoke to Ian Henschel. You know Marcus Allen, of course, who's been on this channel. And it all sounds very neat at first glance, doesn't it? But when you look at Dr. Grimes' system in a bit more detail, you'll see that it misses out some vital factors. Now, the method always assumes that people within the conspiracy, involved in the conspiracy, they fall into just two camps. One is active instigators, willing and malicious. Two, completely ignorant innocents who would immediately spill the beans if they heard a peep about it, if they heard one little peep about it. However, real conspiracies just don't work like that, because compliance with a malevolent secret in an organization is maintained by far more subtle pressures: the herding instinct, tacit subconscious agreements, and veiled threats. You may have heard, in the wake of the Jimmy Savile investigation, you may have heard the phrase open secret, which is sounds a bit contradictory, but anyway. Dr. Grimes says about the cancer cover-up, he says that if there was a cure for cancer that was being covered up, it would fall within just 3.2 years. But it hasn't, obviously. It's been going for probably a century or more. So how? When you make a person's livelihood dependent on telling a lie, just see how many will tell it. Like Michel. Occasionally you'll get exceptional individuals like Michel who will refuse to cooperate. But they're very quickly drummed out of the institution, like Shilin Longto, the author of The Medical Mafia and The Trial of the Medical Mafia, and these other books she's written. And of course, Kevin Annett in Canada, who was a priest. He was a vicar in the United Church of Canada, and he discovered that these residential schools were actually killing children, killing them. This rejection process usually involves financial ruin, social ostracization, and a loss of professional identity and public shaming. Now, who was it who said most men will face an army before the scorn of their peers? It's very true indeed. And this elimination of wayward individuals is also, it's always made very public within the organization to serve as a warning to others not to rebel. It's like Spartacus in his army. Do you remember that film where the Spartacus is crucified? All the slaves, the revolting slaves, are crucified on the way along the road to Rome. David Noakes was treated like that in the media. Dr. David Bellamy, climate change denier. Do you see how the things people have been saying about him? Dr. Grimes doesn't understand human psychology. It does, because if you think about it, how does he explain the Jimmy Savile scandal? Unless he believes the BBC's ridiculous and an insulting excuse. We had no idea. He was doing it under our nose, behind our backs. Jimmy Savile, worked for the BBC for 46 years, and he was doing what he did from day one. And he was abusing children on BBC premises and many other places. And he could not have got away with it without a vast conspiracy of a vast level of institutional collusion. Just look at people like Johnny Rotten, Esther Ranson, Janet Street Porter. Well, we kind of knew, we heard rumours, shrugging shoulders like that all the time. You seen them? Well, Johnny Rotten's he's crying about it now, because Jimmy won the whistle tests years ago when he was young. Now, I can tell you a few things about Jimmy Savile, mate. It was an outtake, never broadcast. See, he knew and didn't say anything. He's very ashamed of himself now. He cried when he was interviewed, I remember, and I couldn't help feeling sorry for him. I mean, he's human. We all have human psychology. But I mean, I'm still angry with these people. I hope I would never do that. There's also compartmentalization. Now, I discussed this with Marcus Allen when we did the Apollo Detectives. And this is basically where you break the person organizing the conspiracy breaks the people involved into different pools of awareness, making sure that these pools never overlap. And he gives the examples of the beginning of the atomic bomb program in World War II. Hundreds of thousands of people were involved, but they were often working in factories hundreds of miles away from each other, making components for something. But they didn't know what they were making it for. Other people were making other components. None of these people knew what the finished product was going to be. Even some of the air crew aboard the bombers that dropped the bombs on Japan didn't know, were not told what kind of ordnance they were delivering until they saw it detonate. One of them was so horrified. I think one of the pilots of the plane that did the Nagasaki bomb, he actually deserted as soon as the plane landed back at base, and he ended up in a monastery. The Milgram experiment. Now, I don't know if Dion knows, if you know about this, or anyone else knows about this. The Milgram experiment is a very, very chilling illustration of this kind of thing. And I've shown you this before. Some of you know about this already. Where is it? Should have got this out. Where is it? Experiment. Yeah, here it is. Dion, do watch this. Am I framed all right? Let's recheck the frame. Do watch this film, The Experimenter, about the work of Stanley Milgram and the Milgram experiment. Now, the Milgram experiment is absolutely terrifying. It's an illustration of how the obedience mentality works. What happened was, it's a very, very clever experiment. They brought a person into a room with a big, long control panel with buttons on it, and they sit in front of this control panel, and there's a guy sitting behind a desk with a clipboard and wearing a white coat, looking very authoritative. He's wearing a white coat like a doctor, carrying a clipboard, which is the universal sign of the bureaucrat. And he says, "Oh, press button number 1, please." So the man presses button number 1. He hears a buzzing noise, and he hears a blood-curdling scream coming from a wall, but from behind a wall, through the locked door and a wall straight ahead of him. And he turns around to the doctor, the guy he thinks is a doctor, and he says, "What's that? What happened?" He says, "You just gave that man an electric shock. There's someone in the next room, but you just gave him an electric shock." And I said, "Oh, why? I don't want to give anyone an electric shock." And the doctor says, "Press the next button, please." So he presses, the man goes, and you hear an even louder scream next door, and the doctor says, we just increased the voltage a little bit." And he says, "Next button, please." And there's about 20 buttons. The last one is a big red button that says death. And if you press that button, it gives the person in the next room a fatal electric shock, which kills them, electrocutes them, stone dead. And so the guys, a lot of there's some film of this. You can see some film. It's actually in the if you watch the, it's actually in the closing credits of the movie, and also there's also some bonus material which has a documentary about it. You can see the people are getting really upset when they're pressing these buttons. They're biting their nails and they're weeping, but they won't stop. The doctor behind the desk keeps telling them to do it. Press the next button, please. And if ever they stop, if ever they like pause or say, look, I don't want to do this, he says, you have to continue. Please press the next button. He just repeats that. You must continue the test. Continue this test. It's astonishing that, but more than 90% of people, I think it was over 90% of people willing to press all the buttons, even the big red death button, so long as the figure of authority was telling them to. Of course, they weren't actually really electrocuting people. What it was, the guy sitting in the next room was an actor, and he was just pretending to scream. All that happened was he was just pretending to be electrocuted. A light would light up, and he had a panel with a low of lights. As soon as he saw the light light up, the button just triggered a light in the next room, and the man would go, ah! And he was an actor. He'd pretend to scream. He wasn't really being electrocuted. It was the person being tested was the person pressing the buttons. That, it's chilling. It's terrifying and worrying when you see how, if a figure of authority simply tells someone to do something, they will do it, even killing people. This is how gulag. This is what happened to the gulags. You see, this is what happens in war. And indeed, I mean, as someone who's been through a short military career, this is how it works in the armed forces. But it's not just the military; it's in every institution. That is how these conspiracies are kept. And this is what Dr. Grimes does not understand. And I wrote to him and I informed him of this. I wrote an article, as I said, a blog article, which I will link to. I think if I remember to link to it in the description box, I will. I'll probably upload this video to YouTube as well, actually. I think I will. Also, I should point out slightly different filming style. I tried to use OBS again, just as incidentally, and I couldn't get rid of that echoing sound you got on my comments reply videos, my last comments reply video. So what I'm doing now, I'm simply making a private live stream and I'm downloading it and using that. I don't know. I'll try and see what I can do with OBS. I don't know how I actually stop that from happening because it seems to affect both my microphones. Anyway, that is a response. This is why there is a cover-up of a cancer cure. This is why if I get cancer, I mean, I'll do, who knows, if a doctor told me I had cancer, what would I do? I mean, it's very easy to slip into fear mode. And when you slip into fear mode, you lose rationality. So I don't know what it feels like to be sitting across the desk from a doctor who's kind of bowing his head and going, I'm sorry, mate, you know, it's cancer, it's bad. I mean, we'll try and save you, but I don't know how I would feel, but I hope I would have the wherewithal and I'd hope I'd have the guts and the common sense and the self-discipline to say, can you get me CBD oil? And I say, no, it's quackery. I says, look, if you don't go, look, I won't say a word, all right? This is between you and me, off the record. We'll just put it down to a spontaneous remission, and I won't argue with you if you do that, but I need you to do this to save my life. And if he continues not to say anything, I'll realise I'm looking at the guy pressing the buttons in the Milgram experiment, basically. That's what I'm looking at. And I'll go somewhere else and I'll get it. Hopefully a time will come when it won't be a secret anymore, but when that time comes, the fact that it was a secret will come out. It's like all the other disclosure things I talk about with the UFOs and with the free energy and all these other things. But I don't want to shove too many red pills down your mouth, Dion, in one go. It sounds to me like I'm addressing Dion specifically now. I think you are quite new to the conspiratorial realm, the conspiracy theoretical world, and well, it's a steep learning curve, I'll tell you, in this age of the internet. But if you need any help or any advice or any questions, just PM me or email me, and we'll talk. Because I hope I can answer all your questions, because I've been a conspiracy theorist, as it's called. I've been one of those now for over 20 years now. So thank you all of you for watching, all BitChute viewers. And as I said, I will upload this to YouTube as well. I've decided. Hospital porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.